The next morning, Hana stood outside the humans' quarters with a data pad full of carefully planned activities. She had spent half the night organizing a proper schedule: military demonstrations, weapons presentations, tours of the station's defensive systems, diplomatic briefings with representatives from 12 different species, everything designed to show the coalition's strength and sophistication. The door opened. Daewon stood there in different sleep clothes. These ones had planets on them. "Good morning," he said cheerfully. "Is there breakfast?" "I'm starving." Hana's scales rippled with frustration. "Do you own any formal clothing?" "I have a nice shirt somewhere." "But it's wrinkled." Daewon scratched his head. "What's on the agenda today?" Hana pulled up her datapad. First, a demonstration of Rexian combat techniques. Then a tour of our weapons manufacturing facility. Then lunch with the military council. Then, can I visit the education center instead? Hana stopped mid-sentence. "What? The education center? Where the kids go?" "I saw it on the station map." Daewon pulled out his own data pad showing a downloaded schematic of Fortress 7. "Right here, level 12. I'd love to see how you handle teaching different species together. That is not part of the diplomatic schedule. Can it be?" Hana stared at the human. He stood there in his planet pajamas, looking genuinely excited about visiting a school. Not the weapons. Not the military might. Not the impressive technology. "A school, why?" she asked. "Because I'm a teacher," Daewon said simply. "That's what I do. That's what I'm good at. And honestly, you learn a lot about a culture by seeing how they treat their young ones." Against her better judgment, Hana changed the schedule. The education center was chaos. Hana had not visited it in months, and she was shocked by what she saw. Cubs of 7 different species occupied different sections of a large room. The Vrexian young ones were roughhousing in one corner, their scales clacking together. The Luminar cubs were singing in frequencies that hurt other species' hearing organs. The Korvath children were building structures out of furniture. In the middle of it all, 3 exhausted military personnel tried to maintain order. One of them, a young Keltorian named Minho, looked ready to collapse. "They will not listen," he said when he saw Hana. "Every day the same chaos. We try to teach them, but each species needs different things, different environments, different methods. We were soldiers, not teachers." Daewon walked slowly around the room observing. He did not say anything. He just watched. He saw how the Vrexian cubs became aggressive when confined to small spaces. He noticed how the Luminar children grew quiet when separated from each other. He observed how the Korvath young ones needed to build and create or they became destructive. "How long are the learning sessions?" he asked Minho. 4 hours twice per day. That's too long. Their attention spans are different. See how restless they get? Daewon pointed to a group of cubs who had abandoned their lessons entirely. "They're not being difficult. They're just young. Their brains work differently." "We know that," Minho said, defensive. "But we have standards to maintain. The coalition education requirements, sometimes standards need to bend for reality." Daewon approached the nearest group of cubs, the Vrexian ones who were fighting over a learning pad. He sat down on the floor near them. "Hey, can I show you something cool?" The fighting stopped. The cubs looked at the strange human in pajamas. Daewon pulled out a small device from his pocket. When he pressed it, soft music began to play. Simple tones, rhythmic patterns. "This is a human song about numbers. Want to hear it?" The cubs nodded, curious. What happened next amazed Hana. The human sang in a simple, clear voice. The song taught counting, but it used rhythm and melody that transcended language. The Vrexian cubs started moving to the beat, their natural sense of rhythm engaging with the music. Within minutes, they were counting in galactic standard, something they had refused to do for weeks. Daewon moved to the Luminar children next. He pulled out colored transparent sheets and showed them how light passed through different colors, creating new shades. The Luminar cubs, who communicated through light and color, immediately understood. They began experimenting, creating patterns, learning about light refraction without even realizing they were being taught. With the Korvath young ones, Daewon produced soft clay from his seemingly bottomless bag. "Build something," he told them. "Anything you want. But tell me about it while you build." The Korvath children, who needed physical activity to think, began creating while explaining their thought processes. They were learning language skills while doing what they naturally loved. Minho watched with wide eyes. How did you do that? I didn't do anything special, Daewon said. I just paid attention to what they needed instead of what I wanted to teach. The lesson comes after you understand the student. Over the next few hours, Daewon transformed the education center. He suggested shorter learning sessions with breaks. He recommended mixed species groups for some activities and separate species groups for others. He introduced games that worked across language barriers, using universal concepts like gravity, light, and sound. When one of the cubs, a small Vrexian named Quan, was pushed by an older child, Daewon handled it differently than the military instructors expected. He did not punish the aggressor. Instead, he sat both cubs down and asked them to explain what happened. He took my spot, the older cub said. I was here first, Quan argued. So you both wanted the same spot, Daewon said calmly. That's a problem. How can we solve it without pushing? The cubs stared at him. No adult had ever asked them to solve their own problems before. We could take turns? Quan suggested hesitantly. We could find a bigger spot that fits both of us, the older cub added. Those are both great solutions, Daewon said. Which one do you want to try? They chose to find a bigger spot together. Problem solved without punishment, without dominance displays, without violence. Hana watched from the observation window above the education center. Taeyang had joined her, still in her battle armor but with her helmet removed. He treats them like people, Taeyang said softly. Not like small adults. Not like problems to be managed. Like people who matter. Our warriors are trained to command, Hana replied. To give orders and expect obedience. This human does the opposite. He asks questions. He listens. He adapts. Is that weakness or strength? Neither of them had an answer. At the end of the day, Daewon was exhausted but smiling. The cubs did not want him to leave. They clustered around him, asking when he would come back. Tomorrow, he promised. If that's okay with your teachers, Minho stepped forward. More than okay, please, we need your help. We have been failing these young ones. We did not know how to reach them. You weren't failing, Daewon corrected gently. You just had the wrong training for the job. Being a warrior and being a teacher require different skills. Both are valuable. Both are necessary. Just different. That evening, Hana filed her daily report to the Coalition Council. She tried to explain what she had witnessed, but the words felt inadequate. How could she describe the humans' methods in official language? How could she make the council understand that this unprepared, pajama-wearing individual was succeeding where trained military personnel had struggled? She settled for simple facts. The human has valuable skills in education. Recommend extending his stay and assigning him to assist with the station's young ones. Commander Jamin read the report and added his own note. Approved. I want to see where this leads. Late that night, Taeyang found Daewon in the station's common area, drinking something hot from a cup. Coffee, he explained when he saw her looking. I found a machine that makes something close enough. Want some? No, I came to ask you something. Taeyang sat down, her armor making grinding sounds. Why did Earth send you? A teacher. Not a warrior. Not a diplomat. A teacher of young ones. Daewon considered the question seriously. Maybe because they figured if I can handle 30 human kids, I can handle first contact with aliens. Kids are pretty much the same everywhere, right? Curious, energetic, honest. They don't care about politics or power. They just want to learn and play and be understood. But you represent your entire species. I do, and I think that says something important about my species. Daewon smiled. We could have sent a general covered in medals. We could have sent a politician with rehearsed speeches. We could have sent a scientist with impressive credentials, but we sent a kindergarten teacher in comfortable clothes. What do you think that says about humans? Taeyang thought about her daughter Bomb, who had talked about nothing but Mr. Daewon all evening. She thought about the other cubs who were suddenly excited about learning. She thought about this strange human who wore sleep clothes to the most important diplomatic mission in human history. It says, she began slowly, that humans value their young, that they believe in teaching, not just training, that they think kindness is worth showing even to strangers. Exactly. Daewon took another sip of his almost coffee. We figured the galaxy has enough warriors. Maybe what it needs is more teachers. Taeyang left that conversation feeling like her understanding of the universe had shifted slightly. She had spent her entire life training for combat, preparing for threats, building strength through armor and weapons. But this human suggested a different kind of strength. A strength that came from vulnerability, from connection, from caring about the young ones even when they were not your own species. It was a disturbing thought, and she could not stop thinking about it. The alarm started at 0400 station time, a piercing sound that woke everyone on Fortress 7. Daewon sat up in his small quarters, confused and disoriented. He had been dreaming about his classroom back on Earth. Now red lights were flashing and voices were shouting in the corridors. His door chimed. He opened it to find Minho, the young Keltorian teacher, standing there in light armor. "We are under attack," Minho said quickly. "The Talon Raiders. You need to get to the secure bunker now." "The Cubs," Daewon said immediately. "Where are they?" "Being evacuated." "Please, you must hurry." Daewon grabbed his bag, still wearing his sleep clothes, these ones with little stars on them. He followed Minho through corridors filled with running personnel. Warriors in full battle armor rushed past them toward defensive positions. The station shuddered as something impacted the shields. In the command center, Taeyang was barking orders. Her armor was now fully sealed. Weapons charged and ready. Commander Jaemin coordinated defensive positions with his 6 arms moving across multiple displays simultaneously. "The Talon Raiders," Jaemin explained when he saw Daewon being escorted past. "Pirates. The most dangerous in this sector. They have never been successfully repelled. They demand tribute or they take what they want by force." "How many ships?" Daewon asked. 7. "Against our 4 defensive platforms and 1 patrol ship." Jaemin's expression was grim. "We will fight, but the outcome is uncertain." Another impact rocked the station. Hana rushed past, directing civilian personnel to shelters. She paused when she saw Daewon. "Why are you not in the secure bunker?" "I'm going," Daewon said. "Are all the Cubs there?" "Yes, hurry." But Daewon paused at the door to the command center. "Can I ask something? What do the pirates usually want?" "Resources," Taeyang said without looking away from her tactical display. "Food, medical supplies, fuel. Technology if they can get it. Sometimes hostages. What if we just gave them resources? Would they leave?" The entire command center went silent. Every head turned to stare at the human in star-covered pajamas. "We do not negotiate with pirates," Hana said, her voice sharp. "It shows weakness. It encourages more attacks. But people die in fights," Daewon said quietly. "On both sides. If we can avoid that, go to the bunker," Commander Jaemin said firmly. "This is not your concern, teacher." Daewon went, but his mind was working. The secure bunker was deep in the station's core, surrounded by triple-layer shields and blast doors. Armed guards stood at the entrance, their weapons ready. Inside, the Cubs from 7 different species huddled together, their eyes wide with fear. Adult civilians tried to comfort them, but everyone could feel the vibrations when weapons fire hit the station's shields. Daewon walked past the guards in his fuzzy slippers. "Sir, you should not," one guard started. "The Cubs are scared," Daewon said simply. "That's where I need to be." In the bunker, Cubs were crying. Some made distress sounds in their own languages. Others were completely silent, frozen in fear. The adult guards stood ready, their armor imposing, their weapons visible. It made sense for defense, but it also made the young ones more afraid. Daewon sat down on the floor in the middle of the room, cross-legged, and pulled out his worn book from his bag. The same bag he had carried from Earth, stuffed with simple teaching tools. "Hey everyone," he said in a calm, clear voice. "Who wants to hear a story?" Some of the Cubs looked up. Bomb and Yuri crawled closer immediately. "A story?" Kwan's crystalline form dimmed with uncertainty. "But there is danger." "There is," Daewon agreed. "But the guards are protecting us. See them? They are very good at their jobs. While they keep us safe, we can pass the time with a story. Sound good?" Slowly, the Cubs gathered around him. Even the adults edged closer, drawn by the calm confidence in the human's voice. Daewon opened his book. It was a simple children's story from Earth, translated into Galactic Standard. He began to read about a small creature who lived in a dangerous forest. The small creature was not strong or fast or powerful, but the small creature was clever. When bigger predators came, the small creature did not fight. Instead, it thought. It planned. It found solutions that did not require strength. As Daewon read, using different voices for different characters, the Cubs began to calm. His voice was steady, unhurried like nothing bad was happening at all. When he made a funny voice for the predator, some of the cubs giggled. When the small creature outsmarted the danger, they cheered softly. Outside the bunker, the battle was not going well. The Talon Raiders were too strong, too experienced. Tae-young fought fiercely, leading her warriors in a desperate defense. But one by one, the defensive platforms fell. One of the pirate ships breached the outer hull. Tae-young took a plasma bolt to her shoulder, burning through a weak point in her armor. She fell, still barking orders, refusing to retreat. They were losing. The pirate leader, Cha-young, was ruthless and efficient. His forces moved through the station like they had done this 100 times before. Because they had. They knew exactly where to go, what to take, how to break resistance. Secure the bunkers, Cha-young ordered. Find hostages. The coalition will pay well for their people back. His elite troops moved toward the secure bunker where the cubs were sheltered. The guards at the entrance fought bravely, but they were outnumbered. The blast doors exploded inward. Inside, Daewon was finishing his story. And that is how the small one taught the big ones that being clever beats being strong every time. The end. The bunker doors crashed open. Armed pirates poured in, weapons raised. The guards inside prepared for a last stand. The cubs screamed. Adults pulled the young ones behind them. And there, in the middle of the chaos, sat a human in star pajamas and fuzzy slippers, surrounded by cubs, calmly closing his book. Cha-young entered last, his armor covered in scorch marks from the battle. He was a massive figure, his species known for their size and aggression. He had expected cowering civilians. He had expected resistance from guards. He had expected easy hostages. He had not expected this strange scene. Daewon looked up at the pirate leader. His expression was calm, almost friendly. "Are you here for story time too?" he asked. The question was so absurd that Cha-young actually paused. Behind him, his troops did not know how to react. They were trained to handle fear, anger, resistance, not whatever this was. Little Hyun, the fluffy Korvath cub, tugged on Cha-young's armored leg. "You are very loud," the cub said with the blunt honesty of the young. "We are trying to listen to the story." One of Cha-young's lieutenants, a scarred warrior named Nam, moved forward. "Enough of this. Grab the cubs. They will make good hostages." The mood in the room changed instantly. The adult guards tensed. Parents pulled their young closer, and Daewon stood up. For the first time since arriving at the station, the human looked dangerous. His voice dropped to something cold and absolutely certain. "Don't." It was one word. Just one word. But it carried a weight that made even hardened pirates hesitate. Cha-young recognized that tone. He had heard it before, from apex predators defending their territory, from creatures that would die before letting harm come to what they protected. This human, in his ridiculous sleep clothes, had just drawn a line in the universe. "Stand down," Cha-young ordered Nam. "But sir," I said, "stand down." Daewon relaxed slightly, but he stayed standing between the pirates and the cubs. "You came here for resources," he said calmly, like he was discussing a lesson plan. "The station has food, medical supplies, fuel, everything your people need. Take what you need. But the cubs stay untouched. That is not negotiable." The bunker was silent except for the hum of failing shields and distant weapons fire. "You are in no position to negotiate," Cha-young said. But there was curiosity in his voice now, not just threat. "I am in exactly the position to negotiate," Daewon replied. "Because you are not a mindless monster. You are a person making choices. And I am offering you a choice that gets your people what they need without hurting children. That seems like a good deal." Cha-young looked at the cubs gathered around the human. They were not cowering. They were looking at the pirates with curiosity, yes, but also with the confidence that Mr. Daewon would protect them. The human had given them that confidence just by standing there in fuzzy slippers. In Cha-young's helmet, his communications officer was listing the supplies they had already secured. Food stores, medical equipment, fuel reserves, everything they needed for 3 months. "We have what we came for," the officer reported. Cha-young made a decision that surprised everyone, including himself. "We take the supplies. We leave the station. No hostages." "Sir?" Nam looked shocked. "You heard me. We are pirates, not child killers. Move out." As the pirates began to withdraw, young Quan, the crystalline luminar, ran up to Cha-young. The small cub held out something in his transparent hands. It was a crystal light, the kind Daewon had helped all the luminar cubs make. "For your ship," Quan said in his chiming voice. So it is less dark. Cha-Young stared at the offering. His troops watched. The bunker held its breath. Then, with a gentleness that did not fit his fearsome reputation, the pirate leader took the small crystal light. "Thank you," he said quietly. The pirates left. The bunker remained silent for several heartbeats. Then the cubs rushed to Daewon, hugging him, thanking him, asking if he was okay. The adult guards looked at each other in confusion. The human had just negotiated with the most feared pirates in the sector, while wearing pajamas. And it had worked. Later, monitoring stations across the sector reported something unusual. The Talon raiders changed course, moving away from their next known target. It was a civilian colony, vulnerable and undefended. The pirates went a different direction entirely. The Talon raiders did not leave immediately. After Cha-Young's unexpected decision to spare the bunker, his ships remained docked to Fortress 7 while his crews loaded supplies. The station's defenders were wounded, exhausted, and confused. Taeyang lay in the medical bay, her shoulder being repaired by automated systems. She kept asking for updates, unable to believe what had happened. The human talked to them, Minho explained, still processing it himself. He just talked, and they listened. In the secure bunker, Daewon was trying to calm cubs who were now more excited than scared. They had just witnessed something they did not fully understand, and they had questions. So many questions. "Why did the big scary one listen to you?" Baum asked. "Because I gave him a choice that made sense," Daewon said, gathering his book and other scattered items. "Sometimes people do bad things because they think they have no other option. Show them another way and they might surprise you." "But he was a pirate," Yuri pointed out. "Pirates are bad." "Pirates are people who made choices that hurt others," Daewon corrected gently. "That is bad, yes. But people can make different choices." Before he could continue, alarms blared again. Not attack alarms this time. Security warnings. The guards at the bunker entrance straightened, weapons ready. Through the comm system, Hana's voice came through, tight with tension. "The pirate leader is returning to the bunker. He is alone and unarmed, but security protocols—" "Let him in," Daewon said. "Absolutely not," one of the guards responded. "He is a hostile. He is a person who wants to talk. Let him in." The guards looked at each other. This human had no authority. He was not military. He was not even properly dressed. But he had just done the impossible. Maybe they should listen. Cha-Young entered the bunker slowly, his hands visible and empty. He had removed his helmet, showing a scarred face that had seen decades of conflict. His eyes swept the room, taking in the cubs who watched him with wary curiosity, the guards with their weapons tracking his every movement, and the human in star pajamas who stood calmly in the middle of it all. "I have questions," Cha-Young said. "I have time," Daewon replied. "Why did you not fear me?" "I was terrified," Daewon admitted. "But fear does not help in that situation. Thinking helps. Talking helps. Understanding helps." Cha-Young moved closer and the guards tensed. He ignored them, his attention fixed on the human. "You offered me supplies. You could have fought. You could have stayed silent. Why give me what I wanted? Because fighting would have gotten people killed. Probably cubs too. You needed resources. We had resources. Trading made more sense than dying. No one has ever offered before. Every station fights. Every ship resists. Maybe they were afraid you would see it as weakness. It is weakness. Is it?" Daewon tilted his head. "You took what you needed and left. No unnecessary deaths. No traumatized cubs. No destroyed station. You got supplies. We kept our lives. That seems like strength to me. Knowing when not to fight takes more courage than just attacking everything." Cha-Young was quiet for a long moment. Around them, the cubs watched with wide eyes. This was better than the story from the book. "I was a cub on a station like this once," Cha-Young said suddenly. "Before I became what I am now. The station was attacked. No one negotiated. No one offered alternatives. Everyone fought until there was nothing left to fight for. The cubs died too." Daewon's expression softened. "I am sorry that happened to you. Do not pity me. I do not pity you. I am just sorry. No cub should experience that." Quan, brave little Quan, approached the massive pirate leader. "Did you really used to be small like us?" Cha-Young looked down at the crystalline child. "Everyone was small once. Were you scared?" "Very scared. We were scared today too," Quan admitted. "But Mr. Daewon told us a story and it helped. Do you want to hear it?" Before Cha-Young could respond, Baum and Yuri rushed over with the book. It is about a small creature who is clever, Baum explained. It is very good. Hayun, the fluffy one, tugged on Cha Young's armored leg again. You should sit. Story time is better when you sit. The guards looked ready to intervene. This was absurd. A pirate lord sitting for story time with cubs? But Daewon nodded encouragingly, and somehow that made it seem possible. Cha Young sat. The movement was awkward in his armor, but he managed. The cubs immediately gathered around him, treating him like any other visitor. They did not see a feared pirate. They saw a big person who might like stories. Daewon read the story again. He used the same voices, the same enthusiasm. Cha Young listened, his expression unreadable. But when the small creature in the story outsmarted the predator, Daewon noticed the tiniest smile at the corner of the pirate's scarred mouth. When the story ended, Yuri asked, "Do you have cubs on your ships?" "Some of the crew have young ones," Cha Young admitted. "We keep them safe in the core ships." "Do they go to school?" "No, there is no school." "That is sad," Baum said with the blunt honesty of children. "Everyone should get to learn." Daewon watched the exchange with interest. He could see something shifting in Cha Young's expression, some old memory or buried feeling surfacing. "You are not what I expected," Cha Young said to Daewon. "Intelligence reports said humans were warriors from a death world." "We are from a death world," Daewon confirmed. "Earth is very dangerous. We have predators, diseases, natural disasters, extreme weather. Most things there try to kill us." "Then why are you not a warrior?" "Because we learned that surviving is not the same as living. We could spend all our time fighting, or we could build something better. We chose better. Most of the time, anyway. But you still know how to fight." "If we have to," Daewon said quietly. "But we prefer not to. Fighting is easy. Any creature can fight. Building, teaching, protecting without violence, that is harder. That requires actual strength." Cha Young absorbed this. Around them, the cubs were showing him their artwork, their projects, the things they were learning. They treated him like a guest, not a threat. And slowly, Cha Young began to respond. He asked questions about their lessons. He admired their crystal lights and clay sculptures. He listened. One of Cha Young's officers appeared at the bunker entrance. "Sir, the supplies are loaded. We should leave before reinforcements arrive." Cha Young stood, and the cubs made disappointed sounds. "Will you come back?" Hayun asked. "I do not think that would be wise, small one." "But you did not finish hearing about our other lessons," Quan protested. Cha Young looked at Daewon. "You have taught them well. They do not fear as they should. I have taught them to think, not just react. Fear has its place, but so does understanding." As Cha Young turned to leave, he paused. "The civilian colony we were going to raid next. It has cubs there too?" "Most colonies do," Daewon said. "I will find a different target, one without young ones. Or," Daewon suggested carefully, "you could find a different life entirely. The cubs on your ships could have a school. They could learn and grow without fear. You could build something instead of just taking." Cha Young laughed, but it was not a cruel sound. "You ask much, teacher. I ask what I think you already want. Otherwise, why come back to this bunker? Why sit for a story? Why take the crystal light from Quan?" Cha Young touched his belt, where the small crystal light was attached, glowing softly. "You are dangerous," he said finally. "Not with weapons. With ideas. Ideas can change the galaxy," Daewon agreed. "Usually better than weapons do." The pirate leader left without another word. But as his ships undocked from Fortress 7, monitoring stations noticed something strange. The Talon Raiders did not head toward their next known target. They did not attack the civilian colony. They changed course entirely, heading toward the edge of explored space. In the medical bay, Tae Yang watched the ships depart on her recovery bed's display. Hana sat beside her, equally confused. "What did the human do?" Tae Yang asked. "He talked to a pirate lord like he was a parent upset at school pickup," Hana said, her voice full of disbelief. "And it worked. That should not have worked. But it did." Commander Jamin entered the medical bay, all 6 of his arms moving with agitation. "I have reviewed the security footage from the bunker multiple times. I still do not understand what happened. The human showed compassion to someone who did not deserve it," Tae Yang said slowly, working through her thoughts. "He treated a pirate like a person, like someone who could choose differently. And the pirate responded," Hana added. "He came back to hear a children's story. He accepted a gift from a cub. He changed his rating pattern. One conversation should not change a lifetime of violence, Jamin insisted. Maybe not, Taeyang said, but it can plant a seed, and seeds grow. Later that night, Daewon sat with the cubs in the education center, now being used as a temporary shelter while repairs continued. The young ones were tired but too excited to sleep. They kept talking about the big scary pirate who sat for story time. Was he still bad? Baum asked. Even after he listened? He has done bad things, Daewon said carefully. But people are complicated. They can be bad and good at the same time. They can make bad choices and then make better ones. That is what growth means. Do you think he will come back? Kwan's crystal form pulsed with hope. I do not know. But I think we gave him something to think about. Sometimes that is enough. Yuri yawned, her small scales gleaming in the dim light. I liked him. He had sad eyes. Very observant, Daewon said softly. Yes, he did have sad eyes. As the cubs finally drifted to sleep, Daewon stayed awake, thinking about Earth's choice to send him. A teacher, not a warrior, someone who saw people instead of threats, someone who believed that even the most hardened person could change if given the right reasons. 2 weeks after the Talon Raiders departed, Fortress 7 had returned to something resembling normal operations. The damaged sections were repaired. The defensive platforms were rebuilt stronger than before. But something fundamental had changed, and everyone felt it even if they could not name it. Taeyang stood in the observation deck, her arm still in a healing brace from the battle. She watched Daewon through the transparent wall below, where he was teaching a mixed group of cubs. He was wearing new pajamas today, these ones with moons and stars. She had stopped questioning his clothing choices. He has transformed the education center, Hana said, joining her at the window. Enrollment has increased. Parents from other stations are requesting transfers here, all because of one human who refuses to wear proper clothes. It is not the clothes, Taeyang said. It is what the clothes represent. He does not pretend to be something he is not. He does not need armor or weapons or formal attire to have authority. His authority comes from who he is, not what he wears. Below, Daewon was mediating a dispute between two cubs. A Vrexian and a Korvath had both claimed the same learning space. Instead of separating them or choosing sides, he was asking them questions, guiding them to find their own solution. It was the same method he had used with the pirates. Give people tools to solve their own problems. Commander Jamin approached, carrying data pads with multiple status reports. The Coalition Council has been asking about our human teacher, he said. News of the pirate encounter has spread throughout the galaxy. Everyone wants to know how he did it. What did you tell them? Hana asked. The truth, that he talked to them like people, that he offered alternatives instead of just fighting, that he wore pajamas and somehow that made him more effective than our entire military force. Jamin's multiple arms gestured in frustration. They think I am joking. What does Daewon say about it? Taeyang asked. He says he just did what made sense. The three of them watched as Daewon successfully got the two arguing cubs to share the space by turning it into a collaborative project. The Vrexian's strength and the Korvath's creativity combined to build something neither could have made alone. I have been a warrior my entire life, Taeyang said quietly. I was taught that strength comes from armor, from weapons, from the ability to destroy enemies. But this human shows a different kind of strength, one I do not fully understand yet. Perhaps that is the point, Jamin suggested. Perhaps we are not meant to understand it immediately. Perhaps we are meant to learn it, the way the cubs are learning. That afternoon, Daewon was summoned to Commander Jamin's office. He arrived in his moon and star pajamas, carrying his ever-present worn bag. Am I in trouble? He asked with a slight smile. Quite the opposite, Jamin said. The Coalition wants to offer you a permanent position. Educational Director for Fortress 7, full diplomatic status. Resources to expand the education program. A formal residence, and if you insist, permission to continue wearing sleep clothes. Daewon sat down, considering. What about Earth? I am supposed to be their representative. Earth has sent a message. They are very pleased with how things have progressed. They are sending more personnel, but they want you to stay here if you are willing. Teachers, doctors, artists, no soldiers. They say you have opened a door they want to keep walking through. More humans coming here? Daewon looked thoughtful. The cubs would like that. New perspectives. New teaching methods. Is that a yes? On one condition. The education center cannot just be for cubs stationed here. It needs to be open to any young ones in this sector. rich or poor, military or civilian. Even the children of pirates if their parents want to send them. Jamin's 6 arms folded in surprise. That is a significant request. It is a necessary one. You cannot teach some cubs that they matter while excluding others. Either every young one deserves education or none of this means anything. After a long moment, Jamin nodded. I will present it to the council. I believe they will agree, especially after recent events. 3 months later, Fortress 7 was transformed. The education center had expanded to 3 full levels. Human teachers had arrived, along with educators from a dozen other species who wanted to learn Daewon's methods. Cubs from all over the sector attended, their parents recognizing something special was happening here. Taeyang's warriors had started a new program, Cub Protection Training. Instead of teaching young ones to fight, they taught them to think strategically, to solve problems, to understand conflict resolution. Taeyang herself taught a class on recognizing danger without living in fear. The human has infected us with his ideas, she told Hana one day, but she was smiling when she said it. The most unexpected change came from an unlikely source. A small ship arrived at Fortress 7, requesting permission to dock. Security scans showed it was unarmed. The pilot's voice came through communications. This is transport vessel Hope's Light, requesting permission to deliver students. The name was not in any registry. Commander Jamin authorized docking cautiously. When the airlock opened, everyone was shocked. Cha Young stood there without armor, wearing simple civilian clothes. Behind him were 12 cubs of various species, children from pirate families who had never seen a real school. You said education should be for everyone, Cha Young said when Daewon met him at the airlock. I am testing if you meant it. Daewon looked at the nervous cubs, then back at the former pirate lord. You brought them yourself. I wanted to make sure they would be safe, that you would not treat them differently because of what their parents are. Every cub is just a cub here, Daewon said firmly. No judgment. No prejudice. They get the same chance as everyone else. The cubs enrolled that day. Some of them had never been taught to read. Others had seen violence their whole lives and flinched at loud noises. But slowly, with patience and care, they began to heal. They began to learn. They began to trust. Cha Young visited every week, bringing more children each time. He never stayed long, and he never spoke much about what he was doing. But the Talon Raiders had stopped attacking civilian targets entirely. They still took supplies, but only from military installations and only when negotiations for trade failed first. You are changing him, Taeyang observed to Daewon one day. No, Daewon corrected. He is changing himself. I just showed him it was possible. The ripple effects continued. Other stations began adopting similar education programs. Diplomatic meetings started, including educational exchanges alongside military discussions. Species that had been enemies for generations found common ground in wanting better futures for their young ones. And slowly, a new trend emerged across the galaxy. Diplomats from various species began arriving at negotiations wearing their equivalent of casual, comfortable clothing. It became a statement. I trust you enough not to need armor. I am here to build, not to fight. The media called it the pajama effect. 6 months after Daewon's arrival, he stood in the expanded observation deck with Baum and Yuri, who had become his constant shadows. They watched ships come and go, each one bringing new students or picking up cubs who had completed their programs. Mr. Daewon, Baum asked, why do you think your planet sent you instead of a warrior? Daewon considered the question. He had been asked it many times now, and his answer had evolved. Because Earth wanted to show the galaxy who we really are. We could have sent someone impressive in armor with big weapons, but that would have just been showing strength. We wanted to show something more important. What is more important than strength? Yuri asked. Hope, kindness, the belief that people can be better than their worst moments, that even in a dangerous universe we can choose compassion. He looked down at the 2 young Vrexians. Your mother is one of the strongest warriors I have ever met. But do you know what I admire most about her? What, they asked together? That she is learning to be gentle with you, that she listens when you talk, that she is willing to change how she thinks because she wants you to have a better future. That is real strength. Commander Jamin joined them, his 6 arms carrying data pads as always. The Coalition Council has made a decision. They are establishing educational centers like ours on 12 more stations. They are calling it the Fortress Program, and they are asking Earth to send more teachers. Earth will be pleased, Day One said.
There is more.
They want to establish a new type of diplomatic position, educational ambassadors, individuals who focus on cultural exchange through teaching rather than traditional negotiation. You would be the first if you accept. Day One looked at the cubs around him, at the mixed species groups playing and learning together, at the future being built one lesson at a time. I accept. But I have conditions. Jamin smiled. By now he expected this. Of course you do. Every educational ambassador gets full diplomatic immunity, yes, but they also get a budget for teaching supplies. They must work with local educators, not replace them. And most importantly, they must respect each culture's methods while offering new perspectives. Agreed. Anything else? No formal dress code, Day One added with a grin. If someone wants to teach in pajamas, they can teach in pajamas. That evening, Day One sat in his small quarters, writing a report to Earth. He tried to explain what had happened, how a simple approach of treating people with dignity and cubs with care had somehow shifted the entire sector's approach to conflict and education. His personal message to his former students back on Earth was simpler. Miss you all.
Teaching aliens is a lot like teaching kindergarten.
Everyone wants to be heard. Everyone wants to be understood. Everyone responds better to kindness than force. Turns out those lessons work everywhere in the universe. Love, Mr. Day One. In the education center, now running evening classes, Taeyang read a story to a mixed group of cubs. She used different voices like Day One had taught her. She paused to ask questions. She let the young ones guide the discussion. It felt strange at first, this gentleness after a lifetime of military discipline. But when she saw how the cubs responded, how they opened up and engaged, she understood why the human had succeeded where warriors had failed. After the story, a small Vrexian cub asked her, "Are you scared of being gentle?" The question surprised Taeyang. "What makes you think that?" "Because you are always in armor. Like you need to protect yourself." Taeyang looked down at her battle armor worn like a second skin for so many years. "Perhaps I am," she admitted. "But I am learning. Mr. Day One is teaching me that armor is not always the answer." "He does not wear any armor at all," the cub pointed out. "No, he does not. And somehow he is one of the bravest people I have ever met." Late that night, monitoring stations detected something unusual. The Talon Raiders had sent a message to Coalition headquarters. They wanted to discuss terms for a permanent peace agreement. They wanted educational opportunities for all cubs in their fleet. They wanted to stop being pirates and start being something else. The request was signed by Cha Young, who now called himself an educational advocate for displaced young ones. Commander Jamin brought the news to Day One, who was preparing lesson plans for the next day, still wearing his star pajamas. "You changed him," Yamin said. "You changed everything." "I just showed him a different path," Day One replied. "He had the courage to take it. That was all him. The galaxy is changing because of you." Day One looked up from his lesson plans. "The galaxy is changing because people are choosing to change. I am just a teacher in comfortable clothes who believes cubs deserve better than violence and fear. Anyone could do this." "But they did not," Jamin pointed out. "You did, and that made all the difference." As Day One returned to his lesson plans, he smiled. Tomorrow he would teach a class that included cubs from 7 different species, including 2 whose parents were former enemies. They would learn together, play together, grow together, and slowly, one lesson at a time, they would build a galaxy where pajamas were respected as much as battle armor, where teachers were honored alongside warriors, where kindness was recognized as the strength it truly was. The human from Earth who arrived unprepared and underdressed had taught the galaxy its most important lesson, that the future belongs not to those who fight the hardest, but to those who care the most about what they are fighting for.